This is a video showing how to assemble the Zenit shutter mechanism, and also features my Zenit shutter keep, which makes it much easier to get the shutter together. There's loads of videos on YouTube showing you how to dismantle the camera, but funny enough, none showing you how to put it back together. So hopefully, if you've got to this stage, you would have correctly re-glued the drum here with the ribbons. They always come loose. Similarly over here on the roller, they always come loose here. The second curtain here quite often starts to pull away from the drum. Again, should be re-glued. They have to be re-glued correctly. You can't just put them on anywhere on the roller. They have to be on the exact position, so they leave the exact position off of the roller, because everything is indexed from in here. So if this distance is incorrect in relation to the indexing here, or for the inner drum, the slot there, it will never work. Quite often, if you're servicing the camera, these are starting to come away but have not fully fallen off yet. Normally the ends are stuck quite well. So you can pull these back half the way around, re-glue them, put them back. When the glue is dried, do the same with the other half to re-glue those. Same on the other end. This way you haven't lost the indexing. On the inside here, again, this side is normally quite well stuck, so you can pull the fabric back round here if it's coming away, and then re-glue up to just before you come back round to the cloth again. On this side, the first blind doesn't normally come off of the roller there because it's a lot of glue surface. They always come off here. There's no indexing on here, but they must be glued, so this roller is absolutely parallel to the lathe and to the drum. If it's not, then you'll start getting wrinklings in the curtains and the ribbons, and the lathes won't be parallel. You can lay some graph paper on your desk, tape it out so it doesn't move, and then tape these down, and then use the graph lines to get this dead square to re-glue. If these have come off, or you want to make life easy for yourself, there is available the Zenit shutter curtain repair jig, 3D printed, which holds everything in the correct order, indexes the drum, and allows you to easily re-glue everything, keeping everything square, parallel, and the indexing correct. So, to put the shutter together, lay the first curtain down here, so that's the one with the ribbons that attach to the drum. Lay that out. The second curtain, which is the one attached to the drum itself, then goes over the first curtain, and then the ribbons go under the roller. And then it fits like that. So we can just recap that, which is very important. You lay the first curtain down there so the ribbons come off of the drum, and there's the first curtain of roller. The second curtain, which is attached to the inner drum, goes over the first curtain, and the ribbons go under the roller. So for the rest of the assembly, on the drum here, there's a washer which goes in there, and a washer that goes on the other side. They're both on here. Make sure you use the right washers. There are different sizes when you take the camera apart. And on this end, the roller here, you would have cleaned all of the internal bearing surface in there to get rid of the old grease and mess. Goes on there. The other side, same bearing, and then there's this small round collet piece which goes on the end there. So that is all fully assembled. Roughly how it sits into the camera. Right, so we need to get it into the bottom bearing plate, or sometimes called the crate. You have the cam here and the springs for the mirror lift mechanism and also the first curtain assist. Again, this should have all been cleaned out to get rid of all the old oil and gunge that jams it all up and slows it down. This gear here restricts the movement of the drum between the fired and unfired position. That must be correct, or else the shutter mechanism will not work correctly. This is turned fully anti-clockwise. Now, part of our shutter keep, we take the round disc with the dog sticking up here. We look in the end of the drum. You can see we have this slot in the inner drum and this brass piece here. So the dog must fit into that slot. Okay, it's gone straight in. Now this will now stop the outer drum turning. It locks against the inner, locks there. And then these blinds should be about the correct spacing away. And now we need to get all of this in here. So holding this gear fully anti-clockwise, we can put the drum in. It's in there. And this indentation here should be at the 11 o'clock position. So we need to come around a little bit more. So that. Then we need to get our rollers in. Wind up our blind, get that through the lower hole. Okay, and then we put our star washer or star nut on, and it's a left hand thread, so we turn it anti-clockwise. And then our next one, roll ribbons up into the slot. And going anti-clockwise. And we're on. Sure they will stay in and flip it up. So now we take our top plate, which can slide over, holds everything together, and we can put our clip around to hold it all together, which is a good stage to get to. So we can now sort out our blinds this end, so we can anti-clockwise to tension, gently to wind them all up. There we go. So this is the Zenit tensioning tool, which you can 3D print. It starts off, when you print it, this will just be perfectly circular. So you take one of the star nuts, put it on the end of a clean soldering iron at no more than 200 degrees Celsius to heat the nut. Then you can just drop the nut off onto a non-meltable surface, a stout piece of timber or something, and then you push this on top of it, flush, and then the heat will melt the star washer into here to give you this pattern. When it's cooled down, you can take the nut out, and now you have a good little tool for doing these nuts up. So we'll push onto there. The middle has a hole for a jeweler screwdriver. If your screwdriver has a bigger diameter, you may need to drill it out slightly. So now we can engage the thread on the end of the roller. Okay, it's all left-hand thread, so we can turn this anti-clockwise to put some tension on it. Hold the screwdriver, turn our lock nut anti-clockwise. Done. And again for the top one, you can wind some tension on and lock it off. And so when it comes to adjusting the shutter, when you might need to give these half a turn or a quarter of a turn either way, again you can put this on. You can then hold the current tension, unlock it without losing the current tension, and just add half a turn or a quarter of a turn, whatever you need, and then lock it up again. Otherwise, trying to do that with pliers and holding the slotted end with the screwdriver, then trying to undo the lock nut, is a bit of a nightmare. Okay, so that is all together. So the sides here, we can see that that's not rolled up very well, so we can just undo the roller. Spend your time getting all that nice and neat. It rolls on there nicely. And the same on that end, you can do that, which I won't do now full time. That is our completed mechanism. Now we can test it works. First of all, we can check that our indentation here fits in our slot there, which means the drum is in the correct position. You can then wind our shutter on. We consider two lathes overtaking each other and becoming parallel. Finishing. Check it goes back again. So that's the unfired position. This will be when you then cock the shutter. That all seems to be working nicely. The service manual does give positions for the blinds either side, although it's a little confusing because it actually shows the blinds to stop there, but this goes a little bit further if we get our indexing correct on the top. Again, on this side it shows them about there, which is good. So that is our completed shutter. So before taking our shutter keep off, we just need to lose the tension. Okay, we can turn it clockwise now to lose our tension. Okay, and then anti-clockwise to do the lock nut up. Top one again, clockwise to loosen, get all our tension off, anti-clockwise to lock. Take our clamp off, hold the roller while you take the top piece off, and this is a little bit fiddly to get out, so you just need to rotate the inner drum just a little bit to take some tension off of the blue part. There you go, and make sure the spring, sorry, the washer stays on when you do that. So that should be correct. If we move to the camera, I've taken the two baffles out here and put the screws back in as well, because that screw holds in the aperture mechanism, makes it easier. And I always put screws back in the holes anyway where I can. That way you know where they came from, so you don't end up with piles of screws you don't know where they fit. So this is the cam that the instruction manual talks about. So you can move the spring out of the way and take that arm out. Now the manual says that if the shutter is aligned correctly, this here, this lug will perfectly align with that hole. If it's not lined up like that, it means you've got your drum in the incorrect position. And there's 3 screws to take this out. I find it much easier when getting it together to take this out. And on the bottom there you see the lug which engages with the inner drum, which is replicated on our shutter keep on there. So I've got to get this up inside the camera. There you go, you can see the end of the 2 rollers locked in there correctly. That's locked in nicely. Now we need to get some screws in the bottom without our roller losing position. So the proof now is if this will line up correctly. So you can gently move our drum around, hold it in the correct place. I've put a pen mark, black mark there, which lines up with the dog on the underside. Makes it a little easier. Put this around in the correct position. Yeah. There, yep, drop straight on. There we see our dog perfectly lined with that screw hole. So our shutter has now been assembled correctly. Of course the rest of the camera needs to be put back together. The cam down the bottom there will need to be set at the correct position. The mirror assist spring tensioned, and of course the shutter correctly set up by correctly tensioning these, and all the other bits put back together. But that is the hardest part of getting the camera back together, which most videos don't show you. My parts are available on the Github, or you can find me in the Facebook group, the Zenit Camera Club. All these are free to print. If you can't print them and are in Europe, I can probably send you the parts. And there is the shutter repair jig, which is also printable. And you have my shutter tester, which again is available to build, all free. All the details you will find on the Github, or you can contact me via the Facebook group, the Zenit Camera Club. Hope this has been helpful. Please post any comments or views below.